Do you want to learn effective ways to build relationships, generate sales, and grow your business from successful entrepreneurs, startups, and CEOs without listening to a long interview? If so, you've come to the right place. Gresham Harkless values your time and is ready to share with you precisely the information you're in search of. This is the IAM227 podcast.
Hello. This is Gresh from the IAM227 podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today, Natasha Nurse, the co-host and co-producer of the Woke and Free podcast. Natasha, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. What a great honor.
The honor's all ours, and I truly appreciate you for taking some time out. And what I wanted to do was just read a little bit more about you so everybody can hear about all the awesome things that you're doing. And once upon a time, there was a young Jamaican-American girl from Manhattan who traveled all the way to University Park, Pennsylvania to meet the love of her life, a native Hollis, Queens resident, Khalil Nurse. A licensed attorney by trade, Natasha held various stints in the corporate world prior to making a foray into fashion and writing. Having been a victim of bullying as a child growing up, Natasha learned to seek out fashion as a source of strength early on and actively uses it as a personal means of empowerment. Because of her own experience with bullying and her strong desire to help others within the plus-size community, Natasha started Dressing Room 8 to provide a web-based resource where women can gain personal and professional empowerment. Khalil Nurse, her husband, is an electrical engineer who wears many different hats, just like his wife. He is the tech guru for too many people to mention, which his friends and family can totally attest to as well. And in September 2017, they decided to share their marriage and thoughts to media with their exciting new podcast, Woke and Free, where they talk about relationships, education, religion, politics, music, history, fashion, diversity in the media, entertainment, empowerment matters, life hacks, technology, cultural disparities in the world, and everything in between. Natasha, are you ready to speak to the IAM227 community?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Let's do it. So the first question I had was to hear a little bit more about what I call your CEO story and what led you guys to start your podcast and your business.
Yeah. So for us, it really all comes down to just kind of being open to something different and unique and embodying just the inherentness of who we are. So as you mentioned in my bio, thank you for sharing that again. I started entrepreneurship as an alternative to my law career that I set out on doing, and everything kind of went all crazy in a way where with the economy and also just never maybe finding the right footing for myself. And I kind of got to a point of like, enough is enough, and turned the gears and turned the car on a whole different road of entrepreneurship. And really from that bred my kind of running towards media. And we found that podcasting was going to be a really cool avenue for us to be able to share our thoughts and to create a community in a way that I wasn't already creating in my other endeavors, because Dressing Room 8 is primarily just for women and women empowerment. But you know, I have thoughts and beliefs and help that I can offer on all fronts, not just for women, and women empowerment matters. So Woke and Free is a beautiful kind of mosh-tosh of like talking about us as entrepreneurs, us as a couple, us as young Black people in America, and also talking about things that are happening. And it's kind of like if you were to like record the conversation of a millennial couple, you know, in the United States, you know, what are they talking about behind closed doors? And instead of keeping it quiet, we want to bring it to the forefront because we want people to know that like love is real. It exists. I know that the media would have you think differently, but it exists. We're going on, 16 years strong now, and it'll be 6 years of marriage in April. So, you know, there's that. And then also just like, let's be educated. Me and Khalil were both very frustrated with some of the conversations we're seeing and hearing where people are just spouting off at the top of their head and they're not even educating people, right? How can you talk about something without providing proper context? So we wanted to fill that gap that's definitely missing in media. And I hope that people are enjoying it and very entertained and educated each and every time that they tune in.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I know you touched on it a little bit. Could you tell us a little bit more about what we can hear on the podcast and also what you feel kind of distinguishes you and makes that podcast unique?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So for us, we really wanted to have a podcast that wasn't just like in one arena of just like lifestyle or education, but we want to hit hit on definitely pop culture topics, and we've hit on pop culture. We've hit on history, like the history of our favorite foods, which was like a really funny episode. But like people were like, oh, I love that, right? Because if you think about it, why do you love mac and cheese? Like, why do you love guac? Like, do you even know where guac comes from, right? Like things like that. We have hit on religion. We are definitely talk on race and racism. And like I said, we'll be hitting colorism. We talk about marriage, relationships, friendship, sexuality. We did a recent episode on sex fetishes, which was really entertaining and interesting to learn. And what else do we hit? I mean, it's everything from technology to like how we live. How can we live better? Some of our beliefs that we have to like reverse engineer, things like that. And just like, also we want to welcome the audience to submit topics as well. So people can go on the website on wokeandfree.com and they can submit like things that are burning on their chest or things that they're struggling with. And that way we can incorporate that into the show as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And again, just speaking to this day and age when you're able to kind of create anything and create any opportunity. And like, they way back in the day talk about things like the printing press and how that opened up opportunities. Now, this is kind of like the golden age, so to speak, where you are able to create podcasts, create videos, or even able to, like you mentioned, go to the website and interact with the actual person that created the podcast you want to listen to and decide of certain topics that you want to know about. So I think this is really a phenomenal time.
Thank you. Yeah. And then also from a unique perspective, I would say I don't think there's a podcast out there that's from a female and male perspective on such diverse range of topics, right? Because I think I've seen like a couple podcasts before, but they're talking about like love specifically, or, maybe they have a certain niche thing that they love. But there's so many other things to talk about as well, right? Politics is huge. Let's talk about history. Let's talk about what it's like to be Black in America. What is it like to deal with being a professional and wanting to do something different? Because we both are professionals. I'm a lawyer. He's an engineer. Like, but we're doing things in media. We're doing things, so giving people also that kind of the freedom to understand that like you don't just have to be one person in this life, and you can also consume more than just one type of content and be into more than one type of music, right? Just be yourself, as diverse and authentic and beautiful as that is. Just be you.
Awesome. Well, what I wanted to do was switch gears a little bit and ask you for what I call a CEO hack. And this might be an Apple book or a habit that you have, but it's something that makes you more effective and efficient.
Oh, yes. Okay. I love that. So the Virgo in me is very excited that you asked me this question because I'm all about organization and efficiency and structure. That's like my gospel. So for me, I would say waking up and just like following one of my greatest idols, Oprah. She wakes up and says, thank you, the first thing out of her mouth. So I try, listen, if Oprah's doing it, I think we all need to be doing it, guys.
Right. Like, you need to do it 3 or 4 times.
Right? So go against Oprah. That's nuts. So I similarly wake up and I say thank you. And I'm a big proponent of journaling. For me, I think journaling is a really great way to implement me time. I think too many people live their lives saying, oh, I don't have time for me. That's bullshit. Like, no offense. It's like, cut the crap. Like you have 5 minutes and you can, in those 5 minutes. And then another thing I would do is just mantras, right? Like, so if I'm ever feeling low or anything like that, just writing stuff down on my, like, I have like a to-do list that I do every day, and it's like, you're a bad beep, right? Like, or, you're phenomenal, you're beautiful, like just affirming to myself, because I think, again, too many people are looking for affirmation outside, right? Did they like this? Did I get enough click? Do you like you? Do you enjoy that you're doing, right? You have to affirm yourself. There's no, white horse savior coming for you. You've got to save yourself. You've got to make yourself feel amazing. You cannot expect anyone else to do that. That is an inside job each and every day.
Now I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO nugget, and this is a word of wisdom or piece of advice, or if you can hop into a time machine, what would you tell your younger business self?
Oh, wow. Really great. So I would twofold. I guess I would tell my younger self that it's okay to be different. I think so many times what some of the issues I have with content, whether it's TV shows or movies, is that we're constantly watching and consuming content of how people need to fit in. How, like, if you're different, that's something that you're going to be ostracized about and you should feel bad about. It's not about fitting in and being the same, because no one is the same. Every single person is different, even twins. Yes, you might share the same genetics, but not everything is the same. So I think I would have told myself, because growing up, up, I didn't necessarily have a lot of friends or feel like I was super supported in my life, which is why like I was just super grateful and so excited to meet Khalil. But, you know, I would have told her, hey, like, you're fabulous. And what makes you different is what makes you cool. And it doesn't matter if no one gets that. It doesn't matter why people want to judge or assess you for that. You're not required to explain your life to others, and you're not required to justify why you are who you are. Live your life, and it doesn't matter what other people think about you. It's not your business. So I would tell her that, and probably I would go at 10 maybe and tell her that. And then a nugget I would say is probably one of the best things that I have that makes me successful and keeps me going every day is just like that hunger, that determination. I think as a coach and consultant for Dressed and Remade, or even some of the work I'm doing with Woken Free, I'm constantly having to affirm to people the idea that like, I don't know, or I couldn't figure it out is complete nonsense. Life is too short for you to sit in ignorance and for you to sit in the I don't know stage. If you don't know something and you need it to start a business, to write a book, to move forward with a project, you have got to be hungry enough for your dreams and your goals, right? Similarly, someone could say to you, if you don't believe in you, no one else can. I really want to echo the idea that like, it's not okay to just say, I don't know, right? Because that's not how you build empires. That's not how you become famous, right? Like people, I don't know how to, imagine like if Beyonce was, when she was younger, like, I just don't know how to hit that note. She goes to skip it. Like, come on, man. Like, get it together, right? The Jamaican in me is like, come on, like rough and tough. Yes, it's rough and tough, but you must keep moving on. You must keep pushing, right? And so I just encourage everyone to, every time they want to say to themselves or out loud or others, I don't know, slap yourself. Like, not hard, because we don't want self-harm, but we've got to get it together. And like, no, if I don't know something, a million other people have the exact same question. So where did they go? Did they go and post their question on Reddit? Did they Google it? Did they Yelp it? What the hell did they do? Find the answer and keep it moving. The I don't know doesn't do anything for you other than keep you exactly where you are.
Now, I wanted to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So Natasha, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Ooh, CEO is a person who is definitely, in charge of an organization, a corporation, a business. A CEO is someone who's willing to bear a lot of risk, because as the front person, as a public leader of an organization, when the organization succeeds, maybe people are like, good job. But when it fails or when there's hiccups, they definitely are looking your way like, hey, what's up, Susie? Hey, John, what's good? Right? So you have to be willing to selflessly kind of be the front person, whether it's something you're working on is succeeding or not succeeding. Also, I would say a CEO is someone who is hopefully going to be capable and competent of running the organization, but then also seeing into the future, right? Like, we're not seers, or at least most people aren't, but you still have to figure out, like, whatever you're in the business of right now, what are you going to be doing in the next 18 months, 36 months, right? Like, you have to be in the business now, in the business of the future. So I would say that the CEO is also a person who's going to be a visionary, someone who's going to take an organization, take a corporation, and take it as far and as big as they can. And also a CEO is also going to think about, I think the person needs to be a compassionate person in thinking about how the business can also do social good, because I'm seeing a lot of that now with even new business organizations like I think benefit corporations, where people are in the business of running whatever they're doing, but then also like having kind of a nonprofit arm or kind of a social good mission where, we manufacture X, but we also make sure that like 5% of the profits go to, so making sure that you're thinking about your ecological and environmental impact. And then also the impact among people, right? Because what's the value of having a corporation that has slaves, right? Like, you have to make sure that people are getting paid appropriately and that people feel worthy and worthwhile, because again, we're here for a minute. We all have a responsibility to make this world a better place with the short time that we're here, whether that's through your organization, whether that's through relationship, community work, whatever. But we all have that role and have that responsibility. Whether we accept it or not, it's a personal decision, but it's there. So I think a CEO is not going to forget that like, I'm running this organization, and this organization has to have its own kind of legs and walk and but I can help guide it in the right direction, essentially.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. And I definitely would echo that. So Natasha, I truly appreciate you for taking some time out. What I want to do is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you want to let our readers and our listeners know, and then how they can find out about the podcast and get a hold of you and Khalil.
Perfect. Yeah. So again, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to share our story. And I really would want people to come to wokenfree.com, WOKENFREE.com, and tune in, subscribe via email and follow along in the conversation. But more importantly, join the conversation. This is not just a conversation between him and I, but it's with the world, right? And you all can have conversations with each other. We can all learn from each other. And more importantly, we can really appreciate other people's voices, other people's points of view. So that's what I encourage. And if you aren't necessarily a fan of podcasts, but you're open, again, to trying, give us a try. Because I think most people who come on and just listen, because we're very honest, right? It's literally, if you were to walk into our house, you would hear him and I having the same conversation as we do on the podcast. We try to keep it real. Like you mentioned, he's Hollis, Queens. I'm Manhattan, so I'm not, I'm not Queens, but I think most people definitely see a lot of real interesting behavior in New York. We're both New York products of this great state. So that's what I would say. And I would say, again, how to access us, wokenfree.com. Best way you can get all of our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube at wokenfree. And again, please, if you want to collaborate, if you want to share a tip for an upcoming episode, if you want to be a guest on the show, wokenfree.com, you can hit us up on our contact us page.
Awesome. And we'll have those links in the show notes. So Natasha, I appreciate you so much again for you and everything that you're doing. And I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for listening to the I Am CEO podcast powered by Blue 16 Media. Tune in next time and visit us at IAM227.co. I Am CEO is not just a phrase, it's a community. Be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and everywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe and leave us a 5-star rating. Grab CEO gear at www.ceogear.co. This has been the I Am CEO podcast with Gresham Harkless. Thank you for listening.